As I was saying, the Lord is going to pull his prophets off the street. So you're not going to be able to ask why certain things are happening. Those pastors aren't going to have the answers. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel. I repeat, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel. Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 7. And the men of Judah are his pleasant plan. He looked for justice, but behold, oppression. For righteousness, but behold, a cry for help. So all these so-called rappers, all these so-called singers, movie, TV stars, they got the platform, but yet they still push wickedness. But yet they still push lies. Woe to those who join house to house. They add field to field till there is no place, where they may dwell alone in the midst of the land. So they got their little mega mansions. They got their little estates, but yet they're still alone. While the people that are rich sit in a low place. All we need is the word of the Most High. Can't even trust the bugs anymore. Our Lord tells us that children rule over my people. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry. So the pending destruction is not going to tarry. Our Lord is not going to wait for you to fulfill whatever lust you have until he judges this place. Our Lord ain't gonna wait for you to get your bank account nice until he destroys you. Behold, the proud, his soul is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Indeed, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, and he does not stay at home, because he enlarges his desires as hell. And he is like death and cannot be satisfied. So they've taken all the gold, they've taken all the resources, now they want your life. But they're not going to be able to do so. As our Lord tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 7. Salakia 8 and verse 8. No one has power over the spirit to retain the spirit, and no one has power in the day of death. There is no release from that work, and wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it. So you think you're going to survive off of doing wicked? You're not going to be delivered. You're not going to escape the judgment of the evils you've done. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 6. Shalakia, verse 5. Indeed, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man. He does not stay at home because he enlarges his desires as hell. And he is like death and cannot be satisfied. So we're technically in hell right now. And our Lord tells us we are considered sheep for the slaughter all day long. Meaning we're constantly looking at death. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 24. I'll start at verse 23. For Yahweh created man to be immortal. I repeat, for Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world. And they that do hold of his side do find it. And we know that Cain was the one who murdered his brother Abel. And through Cain came death, but that seed was sown, ultimately starting with that serpent in the garden. And that serpent was the nation of Edom, who came with the false philosophy to deceive Eve, and ultimately Eve deceived Adam with lies. He gathers to himself, Shalakia, Habakkuk chapter 2, and verse 5. Indeed, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man. Wine being philosophy. And he does not stay at home. You got the so-called white man in every nation around the world. You got the so-called white man trying to own a piece of land in every nation around the world. Because he enlarges his desires as hell. They desire to own the earth. They desire to own the world. And he is like death and cannot be satisfied. You pay off your bills, what do they want? Interest. He gathers to himself all nations and heaps up for himself all peoples. Will not all these take up a proverb against him and a taunting riddle against him and say, woe to him who increases what is not his, how long? And to him who loads himself with many pledges. What did they do to the native Indians? They loaded themselves with many pledges. Over 450 false promises, over 450 pledges. Hey, you can best believe them so-called, you can best believe that Gad and Rubion are gonna be doing you dirty in the kingdom, Edom. They're gonna be doing you dirty. What does our Lord say? Gad is a troop. I'll get it. And at the last he shall triumph. Gad being the native Indians. Hey, Gad is gonna be doing them dirty. Probably acting like they're finna give them a piece of lamb, pulling it back. Acting like they're finna give them something good, pump faking them. Hey, them native Indians is finna be on you, Edom. don't even got to talk about the so-called Negroes. It's finna be ruthless with us. This is Numbers chapter 24. And verse 17. I see him, but now I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall arise out of Israel, and batter the brow of Moab, the so-called Chinese, and destroy the sons of Tamar. And Edom, the so-called white man, shall be a possession. Seir also, his enemies, shall be a possession, while Israel does violently. Out of Jacob, one shall have domain, being our Lord Yahushua, and destroy the remains of the city. So when our Lord returns, you could best believe it's going to be hell for the so-called white man. Then I looked on Amalek, the so-called white man, and he took up his oracle and said, Amalek was the first among the nations, but shall be last until he perishes. Who's in rulership right now? Amalek, those Jewish, Amalekites, the Israeli. This is Genesis chapter 49 and verse 8.